Welcome to another edition of Northern Heat, and today our special guest, Lucas Meredith. And Lucas, you're fairly new in town, and you're not from around here originally.
Yeah, the beginning of the wave. Yeah.
The beginning of the wave. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I grew up all over southern and the gate to northern Ontario, and kind of always loved the northern side of Ontario, but it's not as inhabitable up there, and kind of always dreamed about moving back to a place like northern Ontario. But as you spend more time in the city and stuff, you like having things to do. So I kind of always wanted to find something that was a beauty middle ground, and Bathurst has been that. Like, you have the proximity to the rivers. Like, I'm a whitewater kayaker, so that's been incredible to me. But then, it takes the same amount of time to drive to a waterfall that nobody's ever run that it takes to drive to a Chinese restaurant. So yeah, it's kind of the perfect mid-ground for me. Yeah.
That's a pretty good analogy.
Yeah, no, it's worked out really well. Like, when I lived in the city, all I did was eat Chinese food, drink beer, and go to the climbing gym. And moved here, and I'm one of the bigger volunteers at the climbing gym. And now I work at the brewery. And Chinese food is cheaper here, so it all works out.
It all works out in the long run.
Yeah, big time.
So you moved here a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Your girlfriend's working at the library, I believe.
My fiance got the job as the director of the library here the weekend she graduated. And I basically told her the whole time we were looking for her jobs, which is quite a process, that as long as we were within 3 hours of good skiing, I was happy. And then she got the job here the weekend she graduated, and I looked at the map and I said, we're within 3 hours of good skiing. It's great. And then I looked at the cost of land, and it kind of I wanted to start a farm pretty much my whole life. Like, I have a lot of genetic knowledge when it comes to farming. Both my mom's side's Italian, and her grandfather was a market farmer in the mountains in Italy, and then my grandfather was a cattle farmer in Caledon, southern Ontario.
Okay.
Just the way the culture is moving in towards healthier eating and caring more about, vegetables in general, where they used to be kind of this blasé thing, where now people are excited about it. It really kind of opens up the market for farms like this. But because of just physical labor and knowledge of plants, I can grow enough food here for 15 families.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because that's definitely the segue that I wanted to get into. And you mentioned about, people are starting to think healthier and want their, the food and everything else. But there's also, with COVID, that has been highlighted as a fact of self-sufficiency, because, you go to the grocery stores now, you don't get the produce that you're hoping to get because there's places that are shut down because they can't get the labor because people were sick.
The supply chain has been totally mangled.
It's just terrible, right? All the way through. And so you're demonstrating that, I called it when we first talked about urban farming, and you're not really that, but it is in a way.
This season, for sure, it's an urban farm. This season, 100%, I would consider it an urban farm. And next season as well, I would consider it an urban farm. And this property on itself will always be, an urban farm. Like, you can produce a lot of food in this much space. So, basically, this garden here is slightly over 2,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. And in my style of farming, it's not by acres, it's by square feet.
Yeah.
And as I was researching how I was going to structure my farm, I found out about this method called no-dig, where you basically layer the entire surface area of your farm with 2 sheets of cardboard and then 20 centimeters worth of compost. And it's bigger in Europe, where, ironically, compost is considerably more expensive. So if you can take those ideologies and apply them here, where, all this cost me $500.
For people who are listening to the show that realize this is a backyard in Parkwood Heights.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so let's get it right.
And this is my neighbor's fence for his pool.
Yeah, but we're in the middle of a subdivision. You told me that what you're growing here can feed 15 families.
It has all summer.
Yeah, but you're also turning it into a bit of a business, because you're selling vegetables in a box. But you're also looking at how you can expand and network with others, right?
Yeah,
and utilize some of their land to be able to do stuff.
I think yes, I am farming on other land. Like, I'm partnered with that farm in North Tedagouche, I was telling you. There was one guy I've heard of in town for trying to get organic vegetable growers to grow on his land. And I've experimented with growing on other people's land, and it's never worked out. And that was actually a big draw to Bathurst for me, was that I own this house, to be able to buy land and, not have to worry about anybody else's opinions about what you can do with it, as long as it meets the law.
Yeah.
It's such an insanely refreshing thing.
It's an interesting concept. I think that what you're doing is great. You're a great role model for others to start looking at self-sufficiency and sustainability and fresh food and stuff that what's gone into it. Like you mentioned that you don't use any herbicides. You know that. Yeah. But when we go to the grocery stores, we don't know what's in there. So
that's what I always tell people, is that there's a reason why there's no earwigs in the grocery store lettuce. Because it's laced with insecticides. Yeah. I've heard many times from Canadian representatives that say that they think California lettuce should be illegal, with how dirty it is, how dangerous it is to our society for our food standards.
And we think we're eating healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And granted, for the most part, you are. I'll never turn somebody off from a vegetable. And even though, because I care about it from the nutritional standpoint as well. And even though sometimes I have a little quib where I want to tell you somebody beans aren't actually as good for you as you think, I just shut up. Any vegetable you want to eat, even if it's potatoes, it's better than something out of a box, 100%.
No, absolutely. And so if anybody else says, what recommendations would you give to anybody that wants to start? Or do you have any recommendations?
I
Don't do it.
I definitely, I would say, if you want to start a farm, start off small. This doesn't look like it, but for me, this is starting off small for what my vision is.
Yeah.
And so my suggestion is, build a little box like that. Do it no dig. It's super easy. You just get a few bags of sheep compost, or if you want to have a bigger farm, then you get 1 truckload of compost, or however you want to do it, and start off 8 by 10. And if you eventually, after 2 seasons or whatever, if you think it's not enough space, well, then you just have another garden bed, and or you can go crazy like me and cover your whole backyard up, and then
that could happen too.
This year, like I said, I've had enough food for 15 families, but that doesn't really mean that I have enough food for myself. I imagined myself eating off the farm a lot more than what I have been. Initially, my goal was to have 25 CSA customers, and I could tell I wasn't going to have enough food for 25 people, so I sold out at 17. And I've had exactly enough food for that.
Okay.
But I wish my planning was a little worse in that, I had more food for myself, because, what little bits I have been eating are incredible. Those carrots taste so good. Hopefully I'll have a few myself. Yeah. But, and that's kind of next year. I want to have the garden be 4 or 5 times the size, but I'm only going to increase my shares by 10 people.
Okay.
But the boxes has been a great system, and the way my model is set up is that a lot of other farms, big farms, will have it so that Tuesday is the day you get your box, and they have set drop-off locations, and everybody meets them there, and that's an efficient system. You can pick your boxes up at the brewery, which has been a huge asset, because most people show up right away. They don't even stay there. And then I also deliver as well. And the customer decides what day they want to get their box. I also made it so that people could change the produce that they got out of it, but I'm surprised with how few people have done that. All I got was a few nice old ladies saying that they don't like kale, and I don't blame them. I don't like kale either. But it definitely, you have to cater to that. I had a lot of kale ready early in the season. I had to give them other vegetables.
It's amazing. You've already got, you're growing in your backyard. The sustainability is there. The self-sufficiency is there, and you're helping it. You've already got a market. My hat's off to you.
Yeah,
congratulations. I really like the concept. Hopefully, you inspire others to do this.
Yeah, no, it's by no means an original idea. Granted, there are some things that I'm doing here that are original. I'm coming up with my own solutions, but it's not enough to consider it a genre of agriculture. But the cool thing is that as much as there are guys who have done it, it's not a common thing. So I'm kind of in that transition between the guys who created this style of farming, or super modern farming, and I'm kind of in that wave between those guys and when other people start doing it. Because eventually, I think in 10 years there'll be another 20 guys like me in town.
Well,
and
hopefully
the town can support it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Hopefully
no
that
such
there
thing
is.
as competition in this style of
No,
farming. Like
no, not at all.
I
And
turn a customer away every 2 weeks at the brewery.
Well,
So-
again, thank you very much for doing it.
No
Hopefully,
worries. It's
like
been
I said,
really nice talking about it. You know, exactly what you're
we
doing.
met at the golf course a few weeks ago at a
Yeah.
golf tournament. I thought your story was great, and I thought that your story needed to be told. So
Yeah,
that's
wicked.
why you're on the
Yeah,
show.
yeah, I appreciate
and
it.
so again, keep up the great work.
Yeah,
I
thank
wish you the best with everything that you got going on here, and that you do reach your goals next year. So appreciate it.
It's starting to work out really well. Thanks, guys.
So there we are with another edition of Northern Heat for this week, where you hear the stories that haven't been discovered yet.